What is going on, people? We are Tottenham TV here, back again for another preview stream for you guys. Ben is still not with us as he is away for the next few days. So we have Ash Matic in the studio today.
Yes.
Big up, Ash. He is joining us, taking Ben's place, an able deputy. How are we feeling, Ash? You all right?
Yeah, man, I'm
Thanks
good.
for coming in.
I'm blessed.
Yeah, all good.
All good,
I'm
bro.
glad. Look,
All good.
And I want to say as well, massive congratulations to Ash Matic, who became a father for the first time. I don't know if you want that information in public. It is public now. But everyone wish congratulations to Ash Matic. Big up to you.
Thank you.
Project Kane starts today, my friend.
That's it.
We're going to have Tottenham's new star striker in about 18 years.
Yeah,
18 years.
Yeah, about 18 years.
Big up. But look, big game this weekend.
Massive.
We play Aston Villa at Villa Park in what really needs to be a big game for our Europa League exploits. Obviously, Brighton have 2 games in hand on us. We're 2 points clear of them. I do get the feeling, and I don't know if you feel the same, we do need to get something this weekend if we want to make sure that we snatch that 6th spot. Because right now, if you look at the fixtures, despite what the league table looks like, I actually think it looks actually quite positive for us when you look at how hard Brighton's fixtures are. But if we lose this weekend, how much damage for you does that do? If Brighton, even if Brighton don't get anything against Arsenal or even get a draw, like how much damage is being done if we don't get a win this week or any result this weekend?
Yeah, I think morale-wise, it's just going to be terrible for the dressing room. I think even for Mason, he would have a lot of high hopes. The board as well. I think they've got ambitions to still finish in Europe, and I think that's the reason why they appointed Mason, to kind of get the players on side, get the energy back where it needs to be. It's all about mentality right now, and we've been lacking that of late. So I think this game is just as important to us to finish as high as possible, and let's not underestimate it. If we have a top manager, and we do have some type of European football, it may help us, as opposed to not having it at all. So I think it's something to play for more than anything. I think it's more than the actual competition itself. You as a player, you want to aim for something. You want to finish the season on a strong way. So I think this game helps to do that. Otherwise, you're on the beach.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. And I just think that, as much as I'm not a massive fan of Conference League, although if we do go in that competition, I would like to see us win it. But I do think Europa League is quite important, because I think it's a very important. It will be it's another opportunity to win a real big trophy. I do think Europa League is one of the major European trophies compared to the Conference League. I do think people take it seriously, and also next season, if let's say we're not doing great in the race for top 4, it's also another avenue back into the Champions League. If we're falling short in the top 4 race in the league finish, so I do think Europa League is a very important competition to be in if we can't be in the Champions League. Conference League, I just feel differently, because are you going to be as motivated to win a Conference League as Europa League if the end goal is Europa League football for next season, you know what I mean, rather than Champions League? So that's why I'm not a massive fan of the Conference League, albeit I do think it could have its uses if you use it correctly. But I do think if we win this weekend, it puts us really in the driving seat for that last spot. And I enjoy the European trips. I think that Spurs should aspire to be in European football every single season, and as much as you could argue, it would help Tottenham to be in those free midweeks and everything, and on the training ground, and there is some truth to that. To be honest, especially with the new manager coming in, you do kind of want that. The free midweeks on the training pitch. I think Europa League is important enough to sacrifice that, and if you can do well in it. And I do think a new manager might want those games as well, especially someone like a Nagelsmann.
For me, I think it's a thing where if he gets the new manager, if he gets a full pre-season, then albeit like the European competitions, it's not too detrimental because you're going to embed your philosophy and your ideas from that, pre-training season. You're going to be able to get the ideas across to the players, what you want, the style of play and the patterns of play. You're going to get the coaching across to those players. But if you're coming in halfway through a season, it's different. Or if you don't get a pre-season, it's different. So I do understand how you need a whole week, to kind of set the tactics, get on the grass, kind of set your team. You've got a whole week to prepare for each team. And then obviously there's a negative where you're flying across. That's going to obviously affect players because you're getting jet lagged, etc. You might be a bit tired. Your legs might be tired as well.
Also, you play on the Sunday, and there's not much recovery time between that Thursday and the Sunday.
And there's not enough preparation as well going into the other games. Like you want to prepare, like for like the league game, but then you've got to focus for the midweek game straight away. So then what? Do you know what I mean? And that's the reason why we've lost league positions before, and then we've tried to rotate our team a little bit. And then sometimes when we've rotated in the past, the drop off has been too much, and that's the reason why we haven't fared well in these competitions. But at the same time, like I said, there's both positives and negatives that you can draw from both. But being in a competition, that means, like you said, we've got a chance to win something. And even if you don't win it and you go on a good cup run, it gives you something to kind of look forward to in the season. Like if you look at West Ham, or be it that it's the Conference League, I think that's actually helping their season. They're in a relegation battle, they're being drawn into one, but because of the Conference League, they can take that performance into their Sunday game, their Super Sunday game. So I think for the fans as well, they got something to cheer about, something to look forward to as well. So it all depends on how you do well in that competition, how seriously you take it and how serious the manager takes it as well.
Well, looking forward to this game on the weekend, we do go to Villa Park, and it is going to be a very difficult game. We're looking at the form. Spurs has 1 win in their last 5. Villa only two wins in their last 5 now, only 1 win in their last 4 games as well. The Spurs have scored 9 in their last 5. Villa only 5 goals. The goals have really dried up, albeit their defence is still pretty mean. 3 goals conceded in their last 5. Tottenham 15 goals. That really goes to show where the differences are. But you look at that home form for Aston Villa. 5 wins on the trot at home. Spurs haven't won in 7 league games. I think we haven't won since February at all in the league.
Yeah, that's right.
So look, when you're looking at the form, clearly they're going to be very, very confident going into this so they can turn us over, especially given their home form recently. But do you think we can maybe upset the form books in this game?
Yeah, I mean, on the day, anything's possible, I think. Off the back of the positive result against Palace, we've got to take that into our next game, and we've got to stay positive. We've had a whole week to prepare for this game. We know what happened last time around when we lost 2-0 at home. And I think the boys will look to right those wrongs where we failed and we lost in concentration. You look at the first goal we conceded from Lloris. Lloris spilt the ball and it basically fell into their lap, and they managed to score. Buendia ended up scoring as Ollie Watkins picked up the ball and he fed it to him. And that could have all been avoided if we hadn't made that mistake. And then if you look at the second goal as well, I think we lost a bit of concentration. There's a ball lofted in from McGinn, and Douglas Luiz gets a free run. No one picks him up from midfield, and he slots it in, and Ben Davies tries to recover, but it's too little too late. So I think that midfield role is pivotal. Everyone needs to be switched on this time, because Aston Villa, at home especially, I think the home fans are going to try and intimidate the Spurs boys. They're going to try and create an atmosphere which is intimidating, and we need to Mason needs to create an atmosphere where all of the players are accountable. All of them. They're not pointing, they're not looking around and thinking, oh, whose man was that? Do you know what I mean? Everyone should know their role, know whose man there is. There needs to be talking on the pitch, as always should be. But the defenders need to tell the midfielders where to be. That's the key thing for me. If you've got a double pivot and there's 2 midfielders in front of you protecting you, you say, look, you need to be in this area. You need to pick up McGinn coming in. You need to pick up Buendia. you need to watch that run from Ollie Watkins. So for me, that's where the key battles are.
I do wonder if any doubt is going to start having to creep into Villa's minds following some poor results recently, because they've been flying, absolutely flying over the last few months. And it always seemed a bit unsustainable, their form, because Unai Emery's done an amazing job. And it looked like at one point they would be right in the mix for top four. And it looked at one point like there was no stopping them, but only one win in the last four. Maybe there are signs of them slowing down a bit in that race for European spots. Now they've got a big challenge just to get the 7th place, let alone Champions League. And I do reckon maybe in this recent run, losing to Wolves, losing to Man United, maybe a bit of doubt is creeping into their mind. They only beat Fulham 1-0, I remember, at home. They could have dropped points in that game as well. So I do wonder whether Tottenham's experience could count in this game. We also have an extraordinarily good record at Villa Park.
Yeah, we do.
We have a really good record. Look, you can bring on the last 5, but as you can see in the last 5, the games we have lost have been at home. We lost 2-1. Actually, I was under Ryan Mason. We lost 2-1 at home, and then we lost 2-0 early in the season. Do you know when the last time we lost at Villa Park was?
When was the last time?
How long ago do you reckon it was?
What were we, 24? Maybe 8 years?
2008.
Jeez.
2008 was the last time we lost to Villa Park.
That's crazy.
In the league. That was a late, I remember it was a 2-1 loss, and it was, I think, a late Martin Lawson goal, which ended up in defeat. And we've only lost twice at Villa Park since 2004. So that's nearly 20 years.
Yeah.
We've only lost twice in the last 20 years. So we have an extraordinarily good record at Villa Park. I don't know what it is about us and going away to Aston Villa, but we always seem to get a good result there. So maybe that will play on the players' mind. Sometimes it can happen where look at how Tottenham have this thing over Man City right now. Like, doesn't matter. Like, we just seem to get a result against them. Doesn't matter how we're playing. We always seem to put our performance in the result.
Yeah, that's true.
So maybe it's just one of those things with us going to Villa Park that maybe that psychological effect as well might make a difference in this game.
Also, I think Kane's got quite a decent record against Aston Villa, and he's looking to push on from that record that he broke the other day. Obviously, Wayne Rooney, he beat his records, and now he's eyeing up Shearer, and I think he wants to make an impression. I know Haaland, everyone's talking about him, but obviously recently, I think it was the Players or the Journalists Awards where he wasn't mentioned at all.
Yeah, the Football Writers Awards.
Yeah, he wasn't mentioned in the top 4, so which is crazy, and maybe that adds fire to his fuel, and he's got more of a point to prove to say, look, I'm here. Do you know what I mean? I'm here to be counted. So
26 league goals. How is he not even considered in the top 5?
And is it 3 assists as well?
And I think 3 or 4 assists.
29 goal contributions. It's amazing, right?
And actually, you know something fascinating as well. He has scored in more games than Haaland has.
That is an absolute, for me, look, absolute howler by the journalists. I don't know what's going on. It's like a witch hunt at the moment.
Unbelievable. Think about that. How has he scored him? I know, because Haaland gets hat-tricks and Kane this season is more 1 goal a game kind of thing.
I think that's what it is.
But it's mad. He's scored in more games than Haaland this season.
They're taking an L for that one. I'm sorry. Them guys, they messed up.
Yeah, how Kane isn't considered, especially for doing it for a struggling Tottenham team as well. He's the only one kind of stepping up as well.
Yeah.
So I think it's ridiculous that he's not included in the Football Writers Award. But in terms of looking at Aston Villa as well, we've got the star men we're going to be looking at for Aston Villa, and these are the guys who are on really good form. Obviously right now, Ollie Watkins firing on all cylinders, 14 league goals, 6 assists in 34 starts. He's had a marvellous season, especially over the last few months. He went on an 8-game scoring streak, I think, under Unai Emery, and how hard is he going to be to stop tomorrow, because he's just on firing form? And do you reckon he'll fancy his chances against our back line?
I don't know. In the last 3 games, he hasn't scored. So he was on form, and then he's just slowly gone off. I think what teams have done is they've doubled up on him. They know he's a problem, and so they've just basically nullified him and said, look, you're not getting in the game whatsoever. So
what do you think he's done different this season under Emery compared to, because he's always been a good striker, but he seems to have taken his game on a long way. Maybe it's just him maturing as a striker in the Premier League, but He seems to be finding more space. Maybe it's because they're playing more on the counter.
I think personally, Emre is perfect. He's like raised a lot of those players' performances, and he's really good at getting small teams or mid-table teams and then taking them up a level. You've seen what he's done with the La Liga teams like Seville, etc. How he's made them like a mid-table team and then he's pushed them all the way up. And so I think he's done the same with Aston Villa. When he's had a bigger appointment, like your PSGs, some might say Arsenal, do you know what I mean? They're more bigger clubs. He hasn't fared as well. But when it's a smaller team, he seems to be able to get the best out of them. And I think with Ollie Watkins, I think he just made it simple. I think Ollie Watkins was, as a striker, he didn't have that much direction. And I think he was on the left side, the right side, playing down the wings, running down those channels on the wings. And then I think Emre just made it simple. He was just like, I need you to stay in this space and I need you to arrive in the box at this time. That's all. And simple instructions, man management, and just belief as well. Because at the end of the day, the devil is in the detail. But you have to have the framework. You have to have the blueprint. You have to have what I call the bones, right? When you've got the bones, then you can put the meat, pause, around the bones. And then after that, do you know what I'm saying? You will kind of like bread your success. You'll start to develop. So there's sometimes there's information overload. He probably just kept it simple with him. And I think Watkins, being a young striker, he was low on confidence. Because remember, when he was at Brentford, he was banging. He was banging the goals in. Came to Villa.
First season as well. I remember in his first season, like very early on, maybe when they beat Liverpool 7-2. He scored a hat trick in that game. Like he was having a decent first season. Then they brought in Ings and he lost his place a bit and he was competing and he kind of didn't. In his second season, last season, he kind of wasn't at the same level. But this season, since Emre's coming, he's just flying.
I think Emre just said, "You're my main man." Simple. And that's what every striker needs to hear, especially young strikers as well.
And I think as well, because he's a big, physical, fast striker as well, he doesn't get bullied by centre-backs because of his physicality. He's good in the air. So he's perfect for someone like Unai Emery, whereas Danny Ings, as much as he's probably a better finisher than Watkins, albeit Watkins' finishing has drastically improved recently, he's not as physical. So I feel like when it's easier to mark someone like Ings out of the game than someone like Watkins, who maybe could fly off crosses in the box as well. He's got different avenues to attack. If you push up high, you can run in behind. There's a few different things Watkins can do. So yeah, I think he's having a great season. Another person we've highlighted is Jacob Ramsey, who's maybe one of the most underrated young English midfielders in the Premier League, I feel. I feel like he's been doing it now for at least a couple of years in terms of just putting consistent, solid performances. Never really chatted about when we talk about England call-ups and things like that. He's still, 21 or 22, Jacob Ramsey? I'll look that up. I'm pretty sure he's still in his very early 20s. But he's been very consistent for Aston Villa. I think he's actually a pretty good dribbler. He's pretty strong on the ball as well. And he's got 9 goal contributions this season in 34 games. How highly do you rate Jacob Ramsey? Do you reckon he's not looked on enough? He's 21 years of age, so like he's doing really well.
I think with Ramsey, it's just because he's at Aston Villa. Simple. Had he been at a top 6, top 4 club, he'd be getting looked at. It's as simple as that. And I think next season they'll put a bit more respect on his name. The amount of ball carries he does, the amount of energy and pace he has, he's got good ball control, good dribbling, and he can finish. He pops up into those spaces, he jumps into the box, and he just causes different problems or asks different questions just because of his own ability. And this season he's really caught my eye. So Ramsey, one for the future, one for right now, I think. I think maybe like in the past, you have traditional wingers where they kind of like hug the touchline. And he inverts quite a lot.
He's more of a centre mid. He's not much of a winger, is he? Although he's versatile.
He is versatile, but he comes right in the middle and sometimes operates as a false 9. And I think that's where he gets undetected and he just arrives late into the box and ends up causing havoc for loads of teams. So I really like Ramsey. I think he's a good talent.
Yeah, looking at this is the team that Aston Villa started with in their last game. They had Bertrand Traore on the right hand side. I do envisage he'll probably come out of the team for this game, knowing how important a game it was, and they did end up losing as well. Obviously, Matt Cash currently a doubt for the weekend, so expecting this team to be fairly similar to what they've played previously. Knowing that they play a 4-4-2, they're a bit similar to us. They play a 4-4-2, but it never stays like a 4-4-2. It's also like the system switch. Looking at how they set up, how do you reckon that would suit us? Looking at, if I assume that we're going to play a similar system that we played against Palace, the back four out of possession and a back three in possession.
I think the opportunity is much as they have an opportunity against us, we've got opportunity against them because they use their fullback to push all the way up, and we use our wing back to push all the way up. So I think their goal is to get their left fullback, Alex Moreno, to push all the way up and hopefully to nullify Porro. But we're expecting Porro to get high and wide as usual because the space will be in behind. I expect Aston Villa to be in our half pretty much a good percentage of the game. So I think that space in behind is there for Porro to be hit, to be targeted. So if Longlay's on the ball, if Skip's on the ball, Højbjerg's on the ball, they're going to be looking for Porro because that space is going to be exploited on that left-hand side. So I think, I think that's one route in. I think another route as well would be, we've obviously got the three up front, and they're going to have a back two, back four, but when their fullback pushes up, they'll turn to a back three, and it'll be 3 versus 3. I just feel like with our wing backs pushing higher, that will be a numerical advantage for us. So I think we can outnumber them on a counter attack, especially if they're pushing onto our box. I think that's some of the key areas that we need to look at when it's playing against Aston Villa.
And it's going to be interesting in terms of that because Villa, I feel, are much more suited, or not suited. They usually set up to play more on the counter. They like to have a bit less possession, especially when they play better teams. So it is going to be an interesting battle to see, I would say, how we line up against them, how we kind of approach the game. Are we going to be more on the front foot? I mean, Klopp said, he said that Tottenham, all they do is counter attack. Is that going to be the same thing going into this Villa game, or are we going to just counter-attack and invite them onto us, or are we going to try and assert our authority, try and dominate the game and maybe play into Villa's hands a bit more?
I think personally it's going to be a bit of both. There's going to be times when you're going to see tactical switches, so it's going to be a very interesting battle between Mason and Emre to see who comes up on top. Now for me, the battle I look at is, and we haven't spoken about him yet, his name is Douglas Luiz, Douglas Luiz, I think, has been their player of the season. He's in the double pivot, but he's a lot more attacking out of the two. Now, I know they've got Kamara as the more defensive guy, sweeps up a lot more. But I think we saw it last time. It was Douglas Luiz pushing up, and McGinn as well. McGinn also tucking in. I think a lot of their players tuck in. So you've got McGinn and you've got Ramsey almost in front of the two double pivots, and they kind of create a four-man box, if that makes sense. So with that four-man box, that creates a numerical advantage over our players in Skip and Højbjerg. So they could actually outnumber us in midfield because they could have 2 in behind and 2 in front, if that makes sense. And sometimes those players, Ramsey will start from outside to in, and McGinn can start from outside to in as well. And that's where they become undetected because they kind of jump in the shadow of the behind our midfielders, so we don't get picked up. They don't actually see the runs coming in. So I think that could be a potential danger where we get overloaded in midfield. Because I realised when we're getting pressed, that's what Aston Villa like to do. They like to nick the ball and then find their players like Watkins, like Buendia.
When the defence is unsettled.
Exactly. And Buendia is also a player that sometimes he comes out wide and he comes in as well. So they've got loads of players that are interchanging in their positions, and they just find different pockets to kind of hurt us. And sometimes when players don't stay in the same position, you have to be switched on, because they're like, is that your man or is that my man? Is that coming into my zone or is that coming into your zone? And if the communication's not key, if it's not switched on and you're not talking, then those players can hurt you. And I think that's something we need to look out for. It's a very unusual, like, out of position, like we said, it's a 4-4-2, but in possession, that double pivot, if Luiz pushes on and Kamara just sits, then we're really outnumbered, because you've got Luiz, you've got McGinn, and you've got Ramsey all in between the lines. That's the defensive line and the midfielder line. So you've really got a numerical advantage there. So it just takes a pass. And also, their centre-backs, you've got Mings and you've got Konza. And they
Too
can both,
strong.
Yeah, too strong, fast. One plays out from the back, kind of dribbles it, brings it forward. That's in Konza. And Mings can hit a ball, it can hit a diagonal, it can go over the top. And so they've got that in their locker as well, and something that we need to kind of look out for. So those balls are going to be looking to spray to like a Ramsey, and they're going to be trying to hit Porro, because they know Porro likes to push forwards. And I think it's the counter press. When we counter attack, I think they're going to have a counter press. So they're going to try and nick the ball off of us. And because we've pushed high up, there's going to be spaces all over the pitch where they can exploit and hurt Spurs.
Well, we've got a tactics board now on the screen. Maybe we could put it here. One second. Should we swap laptops?
Yeah.
Sure. We can swap laptops. There you go.
Yep.
So as you can see, this is how we envisage both teams are going to kind of set up. So in Tottenham, obviously in the 4-4-2, which is going to kind of change to a to a kind of three at the back, with Emerson tucking in, Davis going a bit wider. As you see, ignore the player numbers, they're wrong, by the way, but whatever. As you see here, Villa also set up in that 4-4-2 kind of formation. And they, as you said, they like to tuck inside. And what I am very worried about is when they do tuck inside, we only have that double pivot, especially off the ball. You got Porro maybe tucking in, but Son isn't like the most defensive. So how are we going to deal with them if they're all tucking inside when they have possession and they're going to have that space, especially when we're playing a back four? How it's going to pull, either we pull our players out of position, or they're going to outnumber us, and we've got to deal with either situation.
Yeah, so I think this is the box I'm talking about. I expect Buendia to pull out wide, and sometimes Watkins will come in. And so you've got triangles all over the pitch. You can have Kamara coming in, and then Luiz can get in between Skip and Højbjerg right here. And straight away you can see there's a diamond there. If Watkins drops in this hole and he kind of drops in here, then you can see that Luiz, Watkins and Ramsey can create an overload right there in that area. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah.
So basically what Ramsey does, Ramsey comes from outside to in, and he attacks that space. And
almost like an inside centre mid, like an in three.
Exactly that. So he's going to be arriving from deep, coming in, and he's going to cause problems, because who picks him up? Does Emerson pick him up? Does Romero pick him up? And if Romero picks him up, that creates a space for Watkins to arrive in. But what you've seen quite a lot of times is you've seen you've seen Watkins actually pulling out wide into those channels. So I'm going to swap things around. I'm going to bring Buendia, because I normally see Watkins on this side. I'm not going to lie to you. Sometimes what will happen is Watkins will pull into this channel, this half space here, and then Ramsey pulls central, right? And the funny thing is, when Watkins is in this area, Spurs are going to start looking at him because he's the danger man. So that might pull Romero across here and Emerson across, because they're focusing on Watkins, and that allows Ramsey and Buendia to become two false nines, and that's going to be a problem. Longley's going to have to tuck in, and Davies as well, as he's more naturally a defender anyway, so he's going to have to tuck in as well to make the back four, and that's what we normally do out of possession. I think Son and also Porro, they're going to have to help out massively. And I think in the last game against Palace, Son defended really well.
Yeah, he
I
did.
think he got back and he helped out his team. He did a good job. And so when Spurs are playing out from the back, in my opinion, I think what happens is the ball will come into Longley. Longley has an option to either drop it into Skip. So Skip will come into this space here. And he has a short ball to play into Skip, to play out to Davies. So Davies is here,
Yeah, a bit further
and then Son can push up a little bit higher. So what I'm seeing sometimes is the ball's coming into Son, and what Son does, he takes the first touch, and sometimes he passes it back. So he can have passes it back into Davies, and then if the ball goes back into Davies, you will see Son kind of pull wide, and then Kane
behind.
drops into this hole where Son will swap over, and that's where we can hurt them, because we're finding holes and spaces in between their lines.
And if Kane could pick up the ball, all of a sudden Son can run in behind.
Son can run in behind, Richarlison as well. So you might see Son pull inside here, making a curved run, and maybe Richarlison trying to get in between the fullback and centre back, because I expect Moreno to push all the way up here. So he's trying to force Porro back into this position here.
So when we're on the ball, how do you expect us to hurt this Villa team? Like, if we're basically on the ball, we're going to be playing in the 3-4-3 system, Porro, and maybe getting forward. Maybe Davis won't get as forward as Porro will. But do you see gaps because they're a very strong defensive team, Villa? They're under Unai Emery.
They don't leak many goals.
They don't leak many. So how are we going to be able to hurt them when we?
So it all depends. Like if Luis pushes here into this space here, that gives Skip the chance to go direct, because every time Skip's on the ball, he wants to get that ball as quickly as forward as possible. And it comes to turnovers, Skip is that guy. He gets that ball and he's trying to ping a ball into Richarlison, into Son, into Kane. Richarlison's job is to drop in here, and Kane's job, let me bring Kane back over here. Kane's job is to pin one of these centre backs. He pins the centre back. These two, they act as attacking midfielders. As the ball comes in, that allows Porro to advance, and we've got all that space in behind. Do you know what I mean? Because Richarlison's in field, he's holding that position, he's tactically disciplined, and we're going to be able to find those spaces in between Moreno and Mings. I think that's the key area. They're going to try and push Porro back, but we're going to try and hit them on a counter, and Porro's going to have space. If Mings comes across, then all of a sudden Richarlison has a free run. Or even if Kane kind of drops in the hole, then Son can make that run right across into that area right there, and we can hurt them. Do you know what I mean? I think that's going to be our go-to. So we like to drop in deep. We like to suck teams in. So a lot of the time you'll see, you might even see a 4-4-2. So you might see Porro back in here,
right, yeah.
Invert a bit. Porro might invert a bit. You might see Davies in that back four, and you might see Son drop back in here. So we've got and Højbjerg here, sorry. So you've got a 4-4-2. So in that 4-4-2, I expect that ball to come in and the space to be hitting Richarlison. Richarlison can look after it, and he can feed it to either Skip. Skip can find a ball into Kane, or Kane can make that run here. He's got that space dropping in.
And you think doing it this way, because under Conte and Stellini, we're off the ball, we were almost like a 5-4-1, and on the ball obviously a 3-4-3. Now it's off the ball 4-4-2, and on the ball is a 3-4-3. But do you reckon it suits us maybe better being the 4-4-2 off the ball, because it means if we can spring the opposition, at least we have two players up in the scoring positions, and it also means out of our three attackers, you don't have to have two of them dropping so deep all the time, and you have two of them hanging up front, as opposed to that. So maybe this is why he's kind of changed up the system a bit in terms of how we're flying in between formations.
I also think as well, I forgot to mention this, so you're right, with the front two pressing here or just hanging up at the top, sometimes in possession or out of possession we're pressing as a 6. So that's Kane starting the press with Richarlison not far behind, and then the other four pressing up. But what I did see as well, sometimes Romero will come forward. So when Romero comes forward and he nicks the ball, I can't move it now, it's annoying. So when Romero pushes forward, sometimes Højbjerg or Skip, they kind of fill in for him. And he's very front-footed and he starts the attack and he starts the aggression. So when that ball comes in, Porro sometimes inverts here as well. And that ball is won and it's an easy direct pass into Richarlison or Kane right there. So I think Romero pushing up sometimes also can help. And also what I did see as well, in attacks at times, not all the time, at times, if Porro hugs the width, hugs the touchline, I'm going to get this, man. I'm going to get this. Yeah. Emerson sometimes does an underlapping run in this half space right here. And then what that does, that stops Ramsey pushing forward, or Luis pushing forward. It gives them something to think about. Oh, look, there's a player there. And then all of a sudden, there's a space for Richarlison and Kane to operate. There's more space, holes start opening up. And then we've got more chances to create passing lanes to score goals.
One benefit I also like of having Emerson available for this game is what Watkins likes to do is in this formation is he loves to run in this channel here down the left hand side. I've seen it all again. I remember against Newcastle, absolutely battered them in down that channel. So having Emerson to patrol that area alongside Porro, it's going to really limit his ability to get free and get the space he wants. Because when you've got someone like Trippier there on the right hand side, I think, and especially like someone like Shah backing him up, they obviously Newcastle have a great defence, but they really struggle to deal with someone like with the pace of Watkins. But Emerson having his pace and strength, dealing with Watkins when he's running in that channel, I think is going to be a massive help.
And also the aerial threat, Emerson cuts that out. Obviously, Porro has not a height issue, but he's one of our shorter players, and then Emerson's one of our taller players. So they're going to be trying to hit Moreno over the top, and Emerson's going to be able to clean up if any of those diagonal balls come in from Konza or Mings. Emerson's going to be there to clean up and then keep it simple and pass to one of the better players.
Looking at this, we've looked at the tactical setup between both sides. Like they have the advantage probably in the central areas with McGinn, Ramsey, Tucky inside, and maybe outnumbering our pivot if Porro and Son aren't helping out as much. But we also have an advantage potentially in the wider areas of Porro getting forward as well. Son maybe getting behind Konsa and Mings. The question is, which one do you see coming out on top? It's a difficult one to answer.
Yeah, you know what it is. I worry about Højbjerg's contribution overall, concentration. Positionally, he's not too bad, but sometimes he ball watches. That's the problem with Højbjerg. Sometimes he can go wanting. And with these players, McGinn especially, McGinn's going to be wanting to come inside here. Seeing that shadow there, Højbjerg won't be able to see him, and then he pops up. And all of a sudden he receives that ball, and then McGinn can hit a ball to Watkins. Buendia's running in that hole as well. He's running outside, causing problems. And sometimes when Højbjerg gets rattled, he just wants to jump into the defence.
Yeah, he just jumps right back.
He just jumps right back, and then Skip follows as well. And then sometimes that's when you're starting to see shots from outside the box, because when now all of a sudden everyone's in that back line, no one's taking responsibility to kind of stand up and hold that position and stop that midfield from getting overrun. So sometimes Romero at some point is going to have to get hold of the game and kind of cut that out, because that can be something that we need to be wary of. But I have spoke about it before. Like I said, it's that box I'm kind of wary of if Kamara pushes up,
Luis McGinn and Ramsey,
and then you've got passing lanes.
And Buendia floating around as well.
And Buendia floating around. You've got passing lanes between there, and it's going to outnumber our double pivot. It's very important that Son repeats that midfield performance that he did against Palace, and he comes and he literally helps Højbjerg out, and equally Porro comes in as well and helps out Skip. So I think that's how we deal with that midfield overload. Do you know what I mean?
Before we get into score predictions, I just want to let you guys know that the link is right now in the community section. If you want to come on and have your say about today's game and about anything about Tottenham really, and about the upcoming if you want to have anything to say about the upcoming game, with whether you want top 6 or not. So link is in the community section right now if you want to come on and join. But Ash, looking, you can have your laptop back now.
Oh, cool.
Looking at this tactical setup and how we're predicting both teams are going to approach the game, what's your prediction? Do you think we get a result?
You know what it is? It's our away record. It's not been good. That's what worries me. So that's the reason why I predict Villa.
But we did come back from 3-0 down.
We did. No, we showed character. It depends on what stage of the game, because that Palace game was a hard game. We were defensively solid, so I think it'll be a low-scoring game. So if no one scores within the first 15 or 20 minutes, which I don't think will happen, and goals happen towards the end of the game, I can see us dropping points. I can see us drawing. I can see us like a 1-1 draw, or I can see us even losing, if I'm being honest. Villa need that win. I just feel like we want European football, but I'm not sure how much. If I feel like Villa want it more, if that makes sense. Like that's their season. Like, I think this game is all or nothing.
Will they have the hunger?
Yeah, this is the thing. I'm not sure if we can match their hunger, their desire, their energy. Do you know what I mean? I think Mason will talk the talk. I think he will say all the right things to the players. But I do worry about that midfield overload, because last time we got outdone by that clever tactical play by Emre, and I think Emre's it's going to be a big test for Mason. I think people are underestimating this is Emre tactical battle versus Mason tactical battle, and if Mason somehow pulls it off, then you have to give him a little bit of juice. You have to give Mason a little bit of juice. I'm not saying manager for later on. No. He's still got to go championship. He's still got to do his experience. He needs more games, but Emery's no joke.
No, you're right.
No joke.
I think he's gotten a bad rap from his time at Arsenal and all the good evening kind of thing, and getting made fun of. And even to be fair, even when he was Arsenal manager, got to finish 5th. He got to Europa final. I know they lost 4-1, but he got to Europa final. Was sacked fairly quickly in the following season. So since then he's won Europa League with Villarreal. He's now doing an amazing job at Aston Villa. He's won how many Europa Leagues with Sevilla? 4 in total, and three for Sevilla. Which is incredible achievement. So I think he's a really underrated manager, albeit he was the man in charge when PSG gave up a 4-0 lead. But even getting a 4-0 lead is impressive against Barca, let alone giving it away. But so I really do think he's one of the most underrated coaches, and it's going to be a big battle to get it. And I agree. I wonder whether we're going to have that hunger. I do think I'm definitely seeing more stuff from this team in the last 3 games than maybe in the months prior to that. Villa are slowing down a bit. That does give us cause for hope, and I'm really hoping, and I'm going to assume we're not going to have a similar start to our last 2 away games in this away game. 5-0 down against Newcastle after 20 minutes, 3-0 down against Liverpool after 15 minutes. We have to avoid that kind of start, which I'm hoping we will. If we can do, I actually think we are going to get a result in this game. I'm going to go, but I don't know if we're going to be good enough for a win. That's the question. I think their tactical, how Emre sets his team up, actually is pretty perfect for how he wants to play against us as well. So I'm worried about that. I'm going to back us to get a result. Will it be enough for a top 6 finish? Remains. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. 1-1 draw. But let us know in the comment section below what you believe the result's going to be. Let's get into some super chats before we move into the callers. El Dante says, come on you Spurs, can't wait for the events of an exciting summer. New manager, new signing. Let's get a few wins, then get business sorted to go again. Big up El Dante. KS says, been a silent subscriber for a while. Thank you for the work you put in for us to enjoy. Come on, you Spurs. Big up to you, KS. Appreciate your support. BK Afam Sports says, if you had to keep only one of the following, who would you keep? Sessegnon or Tanganga? Ooh.
Yeah.
I would keep.
Tanganga, obviously. Sessegnon's injury prone so much.
Yeah. I'll keep
Yeah, his injury
Tanganga.
record's crazy. He's
And then
less than Darren Addington.
Tanganga's as well, a bit versatile in case of injuries and stuff like that.
Yeah, Tanganga's
So just
got more
about,
hope.
I'll probably pick Jaffet. You're probably right about that. And my grandpa, Brian Churnit, in the super chat as well, big up to grandpa. He says,
Big up, Grandpa.
we also have Emerson Royale back. This will make a huge difference. Obviously made a big difference in the last game against Crystal Palace. And I actually agree with grandpa. I think Emerson's going to be very important for his backline because if we had Dyer there and his lack of mobility, I do worry about him up against someone like Watkins.
Yeah.
But with Emerson in there, I'm a lot more confident and assured that we can deal with those situations, especially physicality and also the running in behind and stuff like that.
Yeah.
He can be a bit of a sweeper, and also in the box, he's very good aerially.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
All right, so that is your match preview.